Sandra, we are happy to have you here. We had actually very impressive presentation by your colleague, how Icelandic government is working on SDGs, and short glance in both toolboxes they launched. And just to inform you, our participants are very diverse. We have private sector companies, we have people from universities, from NGOs, and local municipalities. Some of them are first-timers on SDG issues in cooperation with LAPAS, but some are actually the ones who have been working on an issue quite well. So, thank you for the time you will be devoting, and the floor is yours for your presentation.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you all. I hope you can see my presentation and hear me.
Yes, we do.
Good to be here with you. I'll try to have my presentation really open, wide-ended. I'm just going to start with a short presentation about the SDGs and how we approach them here in Iceland and give some examples. And then we can just have an open discussion. I'm just going to start by introducing my company a bit. So I work for an engineering consultancy in Iceland called Mannvit. We are a fairly large consultancy in Iceland with about 300 employees, and we work in a variety of technical services. So we are an engineering consultancy basically, but we do consult on a variety of projects as well. So I'm a sustainability engineer, and we work with a lot of sustainability projects as well. We are based all around Iceland, so we cover the country quite well, and we also have offices abroad, as Icelandic engineering companies work a lot with geothermal energy abroad, and we have offices in Germany and Hungary, for example. We worked quite a lot in Indonesia lately. Engineering companies and consultancies have a lot to do when it comes to sustainability and sustainable society and sustainable development. So I'm just going to give you an example of a few projects we've been involved in over the past couple of years. Climeworks is one, which is basically a company which is capturing CO2 from the atmosphere. And this is located here close to Reykjavik, and they just started. It's an innovative company and really exciting project that is going on there. We've been involved in the Carbfix project as well, which is a large project here in Iceland where they are capturing CO2 and pumping it down to the ground where it becomes stone. So we were an engineering consultant in that project. So we've been involved with a lot of climate related projects, which raises awareness among our employees as well as our clients, of course. Vaxa is another example of a project like this, an innovative project here close to Reykjavik, where they are producing microalgae, future of food growth, some say, but it's a really interesting company. And as I said, as an engineering consultancy, we are involved in a lot of large projects around the island and abroad as well. And we've noticed that we can have significant impact on sustainable development within Iceland when it comes to environmental issues, social issues, environmental impact, and so on. So we have defined our role as an engineering consultancy to shape and promote a sustainable society. And we take that role quite seriously. We want the society to benefit from the projects we work on. And how do you explain this role to just an average consultant or engineer? The sustainability and sustainable development can be quite torn to understand. It is a complicated statement. What does sustainability mean and in what context and so on. So in this journey, we've used the SDGs quite a lot to explain how we are working with sustainability and how we are promoting a sustainable society. We've gone through many workshops within Mannvit with our employees where we are targeting the SDGs and looking at how are we working towards the SDGs in different projects we are working in. And through these projects and workshops we've had within Mannvit, we've realized that we touched directly on 14 of the 17 sustainable development goals. That is quite a lot of goals. Usually when I'm consulting with clients and they are choosing SDGs, I recommend they focus on 3 to 5. But as Mannvit is a large consultancy and works all around the society, we need to be able to focus on all the different places where we touch down. So our different consultants need to be aware of what they can do. And how they promote the sustainable society and the SDGs have been key to that. And just shortly, who am I and how am I involved in all this? So I did my master's in engineering for sustainable development and been working here within Mannvit since 2016 on a variety of sustainability projects. I'm a certified BREEAM assessor for those who know BREEAM. Worked quite a lot with GRI, the Global Compact, and a range of sustainability related projects, both in the private and the public sector. Along with working here at Mannvit, I've been teaching sustainability at the engineering department of Reykjavik University since 2019, and that helps me stay fresh and up to date on what is going on when it comes to sustainability and the SDGs. When working with the SDGs for my clients, I really like using workshops to help them navigate through the goals and figure out, or just understand the goals and figure out how they work and how they can relate to them. So I've had the various workshops for many different companies in both public and private sector and municipalities in Iceland. And we design the workshops according to what the goal is for each and every client. Additionally, I've been consulted on a variety of projects where we use the SDGs to highlight sustainability issues or sustainability performance. We've been using the SDGs in risk assessments and so on. And lately, I've been involved as well in a lot of working groups around the SDGs, both in Iceland and then in international discussions, mainly between engineering consultancies around how we look at the SDGs and how we can work with them. As you said, some are quite new to the SDGs here today, so I'm just going to go shortly through the SDGs and how I look at them and what I believe is their purpose. So most of you probably know the SDGs, these 17 goals. They're these pretty pictures, they're quite colorful, they're fun to look at, and they're easy to relate to. Because as I said earlier, the sustainability concept can be quite hard to understand. It's complicated, it's complex. Some just don't relate or don't know how to start when it comes to sustainability. But the global goals or the SDGs are a great checklist for us who want to work with sustainability with an interdisciplinary group that maybe it doesn't know sustainability. So we use the SDGs as a checklist or a guideline on how to approach sustainability. So 17 easy ways or pictures to do that. As you all know, there are 17 goals, there are 169 sub-targets and over 200 metrics. So quite many things to consider, but it's still quite easy to go through. And I believe everyone can connect to the SDGs. Public or private sector, municipalities, governments, or just us as individuals at home, or in school, or at work. And we can easily connect the SDGs to our daily life, no matter what we're doing or where we are. And just an example, SDG target number 5 talks about gender equality. And because we just recently went through parliamentary elections here in Iceland, I pointed out we as individuals have a lot to say that women are elected into parliament or have the opportunities to take political decisions here in Iceland. So we as individuals can directly affect SDG number 5 and sub-target 5.5. Equally, we can directly affect SDG number 12 on responsible consumption and production by recycling at home or at work or wherever we are, and teach our kids to recycle, because we as individuals help the country raise its recycling portion so that we can reduce waste and increase recycling by 2030. So the SDGs are directly related to daily life. We can connect with them as individuals at work and wherever we work. And it's important that we approach the SDGs on our level and try to adjust them to what we know and how we understand them. Furthermore, we can use, this is just an example from the Icelandic website of where we can look at the metrics and the indicators, because you can see that you as individuals or as public or private identities can affect the metrics. And there are metrics who show or indicators where we can measure our progress and how we are working, how we are performing towards the SDGs. And it is important that all of us do our part in this journey. We need to do what we can do to help the world achieve the SDGs. So this is just an example of the Icelandic website, where I show people that you can go and click on each SDG and just see how Iceland is performing. But furthermore, there is this website called SDGs Index, where you can see how all countries in the world are rated when it comes to the SDGs. And here you can just see the top 7 countries in the world. And as you can see, Iceland is not on this list. And we're quite unhappy with that. But you can click on each country and see their performance. And there you can see Iceland is ranked as number 26 currently. And this is really good for Icelandic companies to look at, or municipalities to see how are we performing when it comes to individual SDGs and metrics. And you can see there are only 4 goals that are green, others are yellow, orange, or red, which means we can improve. So perhaps we should focus on those who are not green and prioritize the others if we believe we can do something towards them or act towards them. So when it comes to SDGs, I believe it's quite important to remember that all targets and all the goals are interconnected. So by working towards one goal, we are inevitably working towards other goals as well. It is a complex system, just as sustainable development there is, where one action impacts another one and so on. And many say that we will either achieve all the goals or none of them because of how interconnected they are and in the complex system. And here's just an example of a breakdown from SDG number 11 on sustainable cities and communities. And here you can see how the sub goals of that goal has been connected to other targets or sub goals. And as you can see, it connects to all of the other SDGs. So by working towards one, we are inevitably working towards others. So when it comes to prioritizing the SDGs and choosing which SDGs you want to work towards, I know it's hard to choose and sometimes you don't want to, but by remembering that working towards 2, 3, 4, 5, you are working towards all can sometimes help. So just bear in mind that you are doing your part and you are working towards all the SDGs. There are a lot of different images that have been shown on how SDGs work, and here you can just see how the SDGs have been divided into the 3 pillars of sustainability, that is economy, society, and environment. So if some SDGs are more related to other, and maybe you want to focus on, for example, society in your work, then perhaps you want to focus on these 7, 8 goals that are defined there, or perhaps biosphere is important to you. There are a lot of different ways to consider the SDGs, but as I said, let's just remember that it is a complex system and that they are all interconnected in some way. And don't try necessarily to understand all the interconnections, because you will just get confused. Just know that they are interconnected. Many are also surprised when they see the SDGs that there's only one that's like focused on climate action, and why that is when we are working towards the Paris Agreement. But you can also say that all the SDGs are working towards climate action in some way, although only one is defined as a goal of climate action. There have been statements out there as well that if we achieve the Paris Agreement, then we will achieve the SDGs. And if we don't achieve the Paris Agreement, we won't achieve the SDGs. We'll just see how that will go. But I think it is good to remember as well, by working towards the SDGs, you are also working towards the Paris Agreement and doing your part in that project. So that was a short overview of the SDGs and how they work, but I want to talk a little bit more about the implementation part and how we implement the SDGs into our daily work, our projects, our company, our municipality, or whatever we are working towards and focusing on. It's just a few things that I believe are key to successful implementation, no matter what you're doing, basically. So this is just to begin with, we need to agree on what approach we're going to take. So how deep do we want to dive into the SDGs? And everyone needs to agree on that in the beginning. So are we just going to review our current activities based on the SDGs and just map current activities and see how they connect to the SDGs? That is one way to look at it. We can also just choose certain goals and prioritize that way, that we want to focus on these 2 or 3 goals. And by choosing them, we are excluding all the others for now and just focusing deeply into that and how we can work towards them. That's another way. And then we can say that we want to implement it into our core activities. And by doing that, we need to take a deep dive into our core activities and the impact our core activities have, and somehow map that impact towards the SDGs, and in that way prioritize the goals. You can ask me about this later. And as I said, no matter what approach we take on the SDGs and how we decide to look at them, it's really important that all are aware of what approach we are taking. Because if we just start some project within our company and everyone's working on their own, we might all be taking different approaches to the SDGs and looking at them differently. And that won't help us at all. That will just get us confused and stranded in some deep discussions on how we impact X and how we don't impact Y and so on. So important to just lay it all down in the beginning. This is the approach we are going to take towards the SDGs now. But also remember that maybe in the beginning, you just want to review your current activities and map them towards the goals. That is a good beginning. You don't have to go all in right at the start. It is okay to review later and look at it differently. So when we have laid down before us on how exactly we're going to look at the goals, Then we can decide what approach are we going to take. So are we just going to look at where we have direct impact on the SDGs, and how do we define direct impact? Are we just going to look at what we believe we are having negative impact on currently? Are we going to look at it based on what is important or material to our company and how we work? Or maybe we're just going to look at it from a risk point of view. You know, there are a lot of different approaches, but this is something else we need to be aware of and discuss in the beginning, and everyone needs to agree on how we're going to approach the goals. So, yes. And here's just an example from Maersk on how they looked at the SDGs and what approach they took. As you can see there, they were looking at strong potential for positive impact at scale. That was like their main focus, but they also defined goals they could have potential direct impact on, and goals they believe they are responsible to mitigate potential negative impact on. So there are a lot of examples online which you can look at and scroll through. Here is an example which is a bit based on a risk assessment from a positive and negative impact point of view, and looks at the whole value chain of a company. So that is also another approach you can take, but just important that from the beginning, everyone involved needs to agree on what approach we are going to take. If I just talk a bit about my company and what we did, we did all the workshops with all our employees, and we did a positive direct impact approach. So we highlighted the goals we believed we could have the most positive direct impact on. And as you can see there from the pictures, the largest goals are those we believe we can have the most positive impact on. Those are SDGs number 11, 9, 6, 7, 12, and 3. And when we have decided on what approach we are going to take and how we're going to look at the SDGs, we just need to prioritize. So, okay, what approach are we going to take? How are we going to do it? Are we going to look at all the company, just core activities? Are we going to look at our whole value chain? Or what are we going to do? Are we going to look at all our offices? If we are a municipality, just the municipality itself and core activities of the municipalities? Or are we going to look at all habitants within the municipality as well and their impact? There's no right way to do this, really. We just need to figure out what works for us in the beginning, have a discussion internally, and be open to changing it later, because there's no shame in starting small and then just changing it later, because as when it comes to quality systems, sustainable development, and the SDGs are quite similar, because we work based on continuous improvement. We're constantly reviewing what we've been doing and how we can improve it and do it better, because everything is changing. Our environment is constantly changing. We're always learning new things when it comes to sustainability. So we need to review regularly and see how we can improve. Maybe something doesn't apply anymore because we've changed some activities or something. Then we need to look at things all over again and see, okay, what can we do now and how should we change? And there's nothing wrong with changing or reconsidering things and doing them again. Related to continuous improvements, there are the metrics. I do recommend setting some metrics or using some indicators to help you track your improvements, to see if you are really showing some progress and working towards your SDGs, because setting some goals, doing something, defining actions, you only know if you're succeeding if you have some metrics or indicators to rely on. And we want those indicators because we know that as when it comes to sustainability, things are constantly changing, and perhaps what we defined 2 years ago as a good action doesn't apply anymore, and we need to review it and see what other things we can do now. Maybe something is more appropriate today than it was, and so on. So metrics help us track our progress, and they are really important in this SDG journey. And so when it comes to the SDGs, as I said, it really relies on a good discussion right at the beginning when we're laying things down before us. We need to review our processes and procedures and how we work towards the SDGs. We need to be aware of continuous improvements and have the metrics at side. And I believe that when all these three things play together, we can successfully implement the SDGs into our company. And as I said, there's no shame in reviewing and updating things. And there's no shame in starting small, because if you try to do everything at once and everything from day one, you will most likely fail. People will get tired and they will give up. So just start small, one piece at a time, and be open to reviewing and doing more when you see this is easy. Okay, we can maybe add something more, looking at more SDGs, adding goals, whatever. Just find your way through it, but just start small and just start. Everyone starts somewhere. So we just need to start and see where that takes us. And there's no shame in failing either. I've tried a lot of different approaches, and sometimes some things just don't work. But then you know it. You've tried it and it didn't work, so you just try something else. That's also something. There's no golden rule on what will work. We need to find what works for us. We are all different, and all companies are different, and all culture within companies, and so on. But in this process, it is quite important to have a team, to have a collaboration. It's not a one person's job to implement and review the SDGs. We need to have everyone involved. And that's how I believe why the workshops have worked so well, because there we're taking in more people to get into the discussion, and they feel like they are responsible for the project as well. So collaboration can be a key to success. Furthermore, the targets, if we set targets, it keeps us on track. So setting some targets on what we're going to do for the next few years and where we're going to be in a couple of years and so on helps us keep on track and be aware that we need to track our progress and review regularly and update our approaches if they aren't working. And as I said, teamwork works when it comes to this. It can be quite hard being the only sustainability officer, for example, within a company or a municipality, and the SDGs are your responsibility. It is much easier and much more successful if there's a team working on this together, not just an individual that is responsible. Because it's also important to be able to have the discussion regularly, for example, when we're reviewing our progress, just to discuss how could we do things differently, what might work, and so on. So teamwork works when it comes to this. And again, continuous improvements. And you can update the team as well. It doesn't always have to be the same few people that are responsible. It helps bringing in new people, fresh eyes, fresh minds, and then you're also just getting more and more people that believe that this is an important project and they take on responsibility. Doesn't matter if they're within the team still or not. So continuous improvements, which is based on regular review and improve and update, helps quite a lot. And I believe the key to making it a successful implementation is to making it part of your business as usual. You want to take it into daily actions, and you want to make it part of what you do every day at work, not just some extra task that you can put in the drawer and forget. You want to make it somehow a project that is always at hand and something you're always considering and reviewing. So this is what I believe is the key to successful implementation, that we have a synchronized approach and prioritization. We have the discussion at the beginning. We set some targets and we are measuring our performance. We are aware and we consider continuous improvements, and we try to make this part of business as usual. So this was the presentation, a short one, as I promised. So now I just want to have a discussion with you.
Thank you. It was really interesting, and actually it well resonated with the previous presentation, where also the framework was presented, and most probably it is quite surprising for people that again no right answers, but actually the process, and while people are thinking about their questions, I will ask already a few ones, and maybe you saw we had quite an activity in the chat. It was in Latvia, and maybe you just saw that messages are popping, but but didn't understand about what. So, but it is actually quite well related to my question. In this type of events, it's good when people meet and we learn what others are doing, what we didn't know before. And one of participants told that actually there is a tool which is developed by university professors, where they actually did put indicators in Excel sheets, measured and everything, and then they came out with KPIs for local governments in Latvia, so they can be used in their development planning process. And I started to think, actually, also while you were presenting, you were focusing more at goal level. But somehow people like to go sometimes deeper and to prioritize at target or even at indicator level. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel from your big experience with this issue? Is it more about finding priorities and defining some very concrete, let's say, indicators or targets or whatever? Or actually, it's very important to have also the process, how people start to think about sustainable development, how they find these priorities, because I have somehow feelings that in each organization or each municipality, it could be totally different dynamics and different targets. What is your pros and cons for these tools, different types of tools, and let's say ready answers, because maybe in a way it's for people easier to use, to start to use them because it's easy, but not all like the process. And I think there are pros and cons for both approaches, but it would be great if you could comment on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the process is really important. Like, most important part is the process to get everyone involved and everyone aware of what we are working towards and why we are doing it. Because just using, so the tools are really helpful as well, but I think you need to start with the process and then you go on to the tools, because you need to take on the understanding of why you're doing this and what works for you and what is important to you, because we are all different, as you said, and all municipalities are different. From that on, the tools are excellent and they work really well. We have a few of them here in Iceland as well, and they are really helpful. But I'm always a bit afraid that when it comes to the tools and we just say that we're going to use this tool, then it's just a sustainability officer and he's just use that tool and you gather all the information and give us a metric for that. And no one else is involved. And then I feel like a huge part of the importance of sustainability is lost, because we want everyone involved and we want everyone to understand why we're doing this and why it is important. So, and also based on where we are in our sustainability journey, I consult on what approach to take. So if we should look at it at a goal level, a target level, or an indicator level. Most often I take the target level approach, because yes, the goals are quite open, but if you look at the targets underneath, they are more direct, so it's a bit easier to understand them. So within most projects, we are looking at it at the target level, and we use the indicators as well. But then again, the UN SDG indicators, you need to be open-minded towards them and not afraid to adjust in them to your reality, let's so to say. So we've been using, for example, examples from Denmark, where they've taken a similar approach of adjusting the SDG indicators to Danish reality. And we did that for a municipality here in Iceland, for example, where we just we used the indicators but adjusted them a bit so they would work in an Icelandic context, so to say.
Mm-hmm. And as I don't see questions, I will continue with mine because I'm really passionate about this issue. I have a question, actually, in a way, following what you said before. You mentioned similarities with quality management systems. You mentioned now sustainability officers. It's something new, at least for me. I have seen that, let's say, in trainings of our members who work with private sector, it's mostly people who are responsible for corporate social responsibility. How do you, and then some were actually were KPIs mentioned, like of organizations linked to sustainable development. That was in case of municipalities of Latvian case. So integration in planning systems, so at strategic level. So how do you feel? I totally understand that the best version is that it's integrated everywhere. But to start with, let's say, to sell to your leader of organization, to head of organization, where it should better sit in the organization, how do you see where it's more successful? What linkages with already existing systems in organizations?
Yeah, I think sustainability is highly connected to our quality management system. But I know as well it has often been with the CSR manager, which is responsible for the corporate social responsibility. But it's also my belief that CSR and quality management system should be more interconnected, because we publishing a report yearly with a CSR strategy that is not part of the quality management system, then how are we actually benefiting from the CSR strategy? That is like my view on that. So starting within the quality management system and getting it as an integrated part of your processes and how you work, I think that is the most successful part you can take. If that is hard, which I believe can be hard for many, then definitely the CSR person should take this on to begin with and lead the way.
And actually, we have one question in chat, which in a way follows again the logics what we have in our discussion. It's easy always when we talk. Okay, it's not easy, but it's more usual when we talk about big companies. You mentioned Global Compact and all these big, standards where you need to have a big effort. But in Latvia, those who are, big companies in Latvia are small at global level. So we have a lot of small organizations and also NGOs and so who would be interested to implement. But of course, they don't have enough resources. So one answer, what I have heard sometimes, that they are quite effective already because they need to be effective. They need to be sustainable because they are small. They need to use their resources effectively and think about sustainability. But what is your experience maybe with smaller organizations? The question exactly says with what to begin. How would you say? What would be your little recipe, even though you don't have recipes, as you say, but for small organizations, some life hacks?
Yeah, so I think it's actually, as you said, it's easier for small and medium-sized companies to implement the SDGs because they're small. It is a lot easier to get it integrated into your daily work and business as usual. And we here in Iceland have a lot of small companies and NGOs that are already working quite well with the SDGs. So a lot of good examples of that. I think the first part is always to get the discussion going. Take a discussion within the management team, among the employees, like what should we focus on? Like what do you believe we can do here within our company? what impact can we have? If there's no familiarity with the SDGs, take a few minutes to go through the SDGs and introduce them to your employees and your coworkers and just discuss them. And then just have the discussion like, how do we connect? Are there some that we can exclude that we just don't affect at all? Are there some that we are really interested in and we think aligned really well with our business? So should we maybe focus on that and just see what are we doing already and how can we impact them, and what maybe would be a nice adjustment or improvement to our practices that could affect the SDGs and help support them.
I don't see many questions. I think we are like, us, you are also a Nordic country. We need to digest, we need to think, and then questions come when everything is finished, right? When you start to apply. That's why I will ask the final question, which is interesting also how you will answer to this question, because we asked the same question to your colleague previously from Ministry of Affairs, Foreign Affairs. So there are lots of different standards, different, toolkits or whatever on different issues. Most probably you also have had to answer on the question, why SDGs? Why SDGs need to be applied? Because there are different, also if you look on sustainability issues, there are different models, different approaches. Or just to react, let's say Bank of Latvia, when we approached them, they said, no, we will not use SDGs. We will use, because they think that they are limited, they will use these three dimensions of sustainable development. They think that we need to start, when we think about development from this very general approach, they think that SDGs are limited. So if you need to tell the answer to somebody who asks you, okay, idea is good, but why exactly SDGs and application of SDGs? What would be your answer?
I would say that because the SDGs are a global language towards sustainability. It's something that we all understand. It's been translated into many different languages. They always have the same meaning. Sustainability can be a complex term, so the SDGs help us frame the term sustainability into 17 easy, understandable goals that we can all work towards, no matter where we are located in the world.
I don't know, maybe you have been trained together, but you gave exactly the same answer. So this is in a way good, though. This means that you are very on the same page in Iceland, and I hope we will be in Latvia also. So you're right. Otherwise, if we wouldn't have SDGs, we wouldn't be talking today, right? Because we would most probably have different languages, different approaches. But now, even though we most probably will have different approaches, we at least have this language where we can, start to talk about. So I would, as I still don't see any hands up, and so I would like to thank you. We will have a little feedback session in Latvian among ourselves afterwards. How do we feel? But I would really like to thank you for the time you have devoted to us, and I'm looking forward that after 3 years, when our cooperation with Iceland will finish, we will be able to show also some good new inspirations we've got from you.
Great. Thank you so much, and always welcome to contact me via email.
Great. Thank you, Sandra.
Have a good day.
Somebody will. You too.
Bye-bye.